Hey everyone, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Sports and Schmooze podcast. I'm Shellam. I'm here with Sam, and we're really excited to get started with another great week of exceptional sports content. So I'll kick it off to Sam, who will start discussing a lot about the NBA, specifically Kawhi Leonard and the investigation that's currently going on.
It's getting crazier in the NBA day by day. The Kawhi Leonard trade is officially on hold, Raptors fans. Don't jump out in excitement yet. It's not over. The Raptors will be putting this trade on hold. The NBA recently came out and said that the consequences that would come with the Kawhi Leonard, first of all, for all of those who don't know, Kawhi Leonard is currently under investigation for potentially engaging in fraudulent activity to try to circumvent the salary cap. A lot of people think that there's enough circumstantial evidence to conclude that it won't fall in Kawhi's favor. Originally, it would be the Clippers that would have suffered the consequences of this coming from this investigation. But the NBA said that if this trade were to go through, it would be the Raptors that would suffer the consequences. For
That's
that
such a
reason, the
that's such a downer on Toronto fans. No, you get this huge news that Kawhi Leonard is coming back. He delivered a championship 7 years ago. Let's run it back again, and then all of a sudden we have this bomb that's thrown on us, especially for Canadians, right? Like, who wouldn't want Kawhi Leonard in a Canadian basketball market again?
I mean, I think Kawhi going back to the Raptors would have been amazing for the franchise. I think the bigger question also is that if the Raptors were to take on this trade, regardless of the outcome of the investigation, and let's say Kawhi were to be found guilty of this fraudulent activity, the question is what would happen, right? Because the last time this happened, the last time a player in the NBA tried to circumvent the salary cap was in 2000. It was Joe Smith for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They found a simulated contract where he tried doing the same thing, and it ended up resulting in a forfeiture of 5 first-round draft picks, right? A then $3.5 million fine, which would obviously today be more, the voiding of Smith's contract, and a 1 year suspension of owners Glenn Taylor and GM Kevin McHale, right?
Wow.
Former Celtics. However, I do think that if indeed it is true, it's definitely a big fumble by the Clippers, right? Clearly, they wanted to do everything to keep Kawhi, but I think that it is clearly just not the way to go. And I think that a big question too is, right, this is a really big test for Adam Silver, right? How harsh is he going to come down with the sanctions in the event that the investigation doesn't come out in Kawhi's favor, right? Because like I just said, the punishments I just listed out just now, right? This is a David Stern. This was the first time. This was an unprecedented event that happened under his wing. Now it would be something that would happen again, but now under Adam Silver, who is generally considered more of a less harsh GM in terms of punishment than someone like David Stern, right? So I think right now, I think that you could assume that it would result in the voiding of Kawhi's contract, millions of dollars in fines, forfeiture of numerous first round draft picks. It wouldn't be a great situation for the Raptors if they were to take on this trade. So I do think it was a smart move for them to keep it on hold. I think the question is, if they would have taken it on, also would they and Kawhi's contract were to be voided, would they be able to get back Ingram and Grady and the picks that they gave up? Or would those stay with the Clippers, right? There's a lot of questions here,
It's a
legal
great
as well,
question,
that
for sure.
right? So there's a lot of questions that would be difficult to answer. So I do think that the Raptors did the right thing. I think it's an unfortunate situation. I don't know what you think, Sean. I don't know. How do you think this investigation is going to transpire?
For sure. I mean, it seems like this is a completely unprecedented case. Like you said, there are a few similarities with the 2000 case. However, I do think the one thing to focus on is what would the consequences be if this all goes down and he is not allegedly but confirmed guilty. I think the main rundown. I wouldn't even look at Kawhi in this regard because I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only severe punishments would be some sort of fine. Or would it be playing time? His career would potentially end.
Oh, well, for Kawhi, there's men. There actually. This is what's scary is that the consequences, if Adam Silver would want to seep to, for example, David Stern's level, right? Because Adam Silver is generally a more player-friendly GM, historically
Right,
speaking.
right.
But if we look right, like from the past, right? The one incident where this happened, the sanctions that were given by David Stern, it resulted in a voiding of a contract, millions of dollars in fines, forfeitures of 5 first-round draft picks, and a 1-year suspension for GM and for team owner, right?
Right. So
Uh,
that's what I was getting at, right? I think from Kawhi's standpoint, right, he may have to pay multiple millions of
well, his
dollars worth
contract
of
might get
fines,
voided.
right? His contract may be voided, yes, but I think the thing to focus on would be what would be the consequences for the team that holds his contract, right? So if the Raptors, which like you said, was a smart move that they put that trade on hold because they don't want to be liable or accused of anything or being involved in any point in this case, right? But I think if the trade does go through and then after the fact he's found guilty, what would the consequences be for Toronto? And I think as a franchise that, has done pretty well in recent years, who's coming up on a few playoff runs, who does have some sort of future. They have a decent young group, right? We saw the package that they gave the Clippers, right? And it looks like they wanted to go deeper in the playoffs, and I don't think they thought they would be able to do that with the package they had in recent years. So adding a player like Kawhi would definitely help them. The only problem is that what would the consequences be for them, right? So if you're telling me they're trading away Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick,
Yeah.
and multiple draft picks, well, on top of that, many other draft picks can be taken away from them, right? We got to think about that. Their entire future over the next 10, 15 years could be destroyed because of this case, right? So I think the Kawhi, the consequences that Kawhi may face may be somewhat inadequate or less of a problem in my mind than whatever team holds his contract may face in the near future.
Well, this is the problem is that we don't know, right? Because there's no, right, just to use some legal words, there's no case law that shows, right, specifically what happens in these type of ways. There's no set of sanctions that specifically always apply in a situation like this. Like I said, I pointed out the one Joe Smith situation, but in the NBA, a lot of punishments are left at the discretion of the commissioner. It's what it seems like, at least. There may be some baseline punishments, but I think Adam Silver could get a little creative with it. But who knows? Maybe it could result in a suspension of Kawhi Leonard. Maybe they would need him next year, and maybe he may have to sit out a few games. That's harmful to the team, right? There's immediate harm, and there's also future harm, which is loss of draft capital, loss of capital in general, loss of assets, right? So this is just not a good situation. And I think Kawhi Leonard,
Of
despite being
course,
voted
absolutely.
right? Despite being voted, let's say, 7th in MVP over last season, right? He's still an injury-prone player. He's still getting older, right? He's not. He's definitely worth a 1 or 2 year rental to go for a championship, which is what the Raptors were going for. But is he worth all this trouble? I don't really know, right? So I think the Raptors, by the end, they made the right choice. But it is pretty unfortunate that it had to come down to this, and that they couldn't just make the trade right away.
I'll touch base on that point that you just made, and I couldn't agree more, right? Is it worth holding a player like that? And, you know, I guess you could ask the question, is it worth holding a player like Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Sidney Crosby, all these league changing, these influential, impactful players, right, who have led the generational talent in this generation and past generations? Would it be worth holding those players for, in a situation like this, or for the potential consequences that a team may face? I think Kawhi is of that stature of player where you need to ask yourself that question. He may not be considered one of the GOATs, but he's definitely a superstar. He will go down in NBA history as a top NBA player, easily top 50 in my mind. One of the best
100%.
defensive players of all time, right? So when you have a player in your hands at that caliber, right? At the tip of your fingertips, right? You're thirsting for a championship run. I mean, do you want to take that risk? Do you not? I don't know, but that's definitely a question you need to ask yourself.
Well, I would say one thing. I do think that there are, I've been hearing mixed reports about what people think is gonna transpire with this Kawhi investigation, right? There are people who think that the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming and that it's gonna result in that it will most likely result in a disfavorable verdict against Kawhi. But I think Kawhi has seemed pretty confident lately, right? He's been in Toronto. He's in Toronto. I don't know if he's currently there right now, but he was there. He was there supporting Kyle Lowry recently. I think he went to. I'm pretty sure he went to an a Raptors NBA summer league game. But I saw a report today coming out that said that like just many individuals in his circle are confident that the investigation will come out in his favor. So clearly, like still has some confidence in this. He hasn't spoken much about it. I mean, he doesn't speak much in general, right? So I mean, it's not his thing, and I think
The
that
silent
serves him.
assassin, man. You don't get any quieter than that.
Yeah, I think it serves him well in the legal context, like everything you say could be used against you. But I definitely I think it's a little bit of a toss up. I don't really know where I stand on this because, right, on the one hand, I see a bunch of evidence that looks shady, but on the other hand, there's no concrete written evidence. And this is a tough call on Adam Silver, and I want to hear you have to think about this, right? Is that when David Stern investigated Joe Smith, they found a written secret simulated contract clearly laying out that they're going to attempt to circumvent the salary cap, right? It's black and white evidence. It's right, it's undeniable. Okay, so it's an easy decision to make. But Adam Silver here is gonna have to make a decision based off an investigation surrounding circumstantial evidence, not written concrete evidence, right? We're gonna have to see if this reaches the NBA, like the burden of proof they have in these investigations, and that's where the test is gonna be. We have to see how strict is Adam Silver going to be when it comes to interpreting the way right the facts of this case. Is he gonna lean more towards giving punishment, or is he gonna lean right? And I think it's gonna
It's
be
an
dependent on
excellent
the
question. I think he's definitely in a tough situation, and there are two ways this can go. And the way I think it may go, or the most likely outcome of this is that Adam Silver is an excellent commissioner. He's been the standing commissioner for almost 20 years now. And I think the sport is getting to a place where there's this some sort of, there are a few players, and I'm going to say this lightly, there are a few players who are trying to, squeeze in as much capital as they can while they still have a decent career, right? Unfortunately, we've seen the likes of Terry Rozier last year with his gambling problem and that situation that transpired last season. And I think Adam Silver may approach this, whether or not Kawhi is guilty, I think he may approach this as, we need to set an example. It sucks that Kawhi may be the sacrificial lamb in that regard, but we need to buckle down on player contracts and have that understanding with the players that you have an incredible talent, and we want to show your talent to the world. Don't waste that opportunity, right? If you go out of the line from a legal perspective, there will be consequences. And again, I'm a big believer in innocent until proven guilty. So whether Kawhi is guilty or not, we don't know. I guess it may not be as evident as the case earlier on in 2000, but despite that, Adam Silver may have to make a judgment call here, and he may have to say, listen, what would be best for the league? And I think that's what a good commissioner has to think about. That's the first question that would probably come to his mind. And it may not be, oh, Kawhi brings great business. That may be a factor, but that wouldn't be the first question. The Toronto Raptors are an up and coming franchise. They're still quite young. They already have a championship in place. The Canadian basketball market is growing substantially year over year. What would this do for the league? What would this do for the team, the franchise, Kawhi personally? All that said, the first question on Adam Silver's mind will be what needs to be done for the betterment of the league in general, for the NBA as a whole.
Well, and I think that's like right. I think that I agree with you in that regard, and I also think that this is also just a purely legal question, also, and a question of how do we determine whether the burden of proof has been met or has not been met, and that's a question that the league is gonna have to answer. and it's going to be unprecedented, and it's going to set the tone, by the way, for the future. Because, right, if Kawhi, with the amount of evidence that has been out right now, is found guilty, then that means that anything in the future that meets that same burden, or right, in terms of the amount of evidence surrounding those issues, potential issues for the future, they'll be found guilty too. And it'll definitely set a tone for the league. It would be Adam Silver setting a tone in this regard. Right. We've seen that he went down really hard on certain teams who he deemed were like trying to tank on purpose earlier this year, to score higher in the draft lottery. So I think that like he has gotten stricter recently. I already fined, I think, the Utah Jazz $500,000, which, although it's pocket change for a franchise like that, at least is a start, right? So, I think that, right, we'll see where he goes with that. I want to take us now though to LeBron James. He's still a free agent, unrestricted free agent, right? He just left. He just told the Los Angeles Lakers recently he will not be playing for them. Last episode, we covered the reports that, right, basically saying that he may want to go to Golden State. There's reports today that came out saying that he'll be meeting with Golden State soon, but it looks like right now the top three potential destinations for LeBron James are the Philadelphia 76ers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Miami Heat. First of all, Shalom, I want to hear, where do you think he's going to go? Why? And where would you want him to go?
I have mixed feelings here, right? Well, two teams are pulling me towards nostalgia, right? He won championships with both the Cavs and the Heat, and I think those would be excellent destinations for him. And, going to Philly, I think he'll set himself up for a year of success. I think that would be a team that can easily make a playoff run. If not the finals, I think they're pretty much guaranteed the semifinals if LeBron is added to that roster. With the acquisition of Jaylen Brown, you have an incredible all-time center in Joel Embiid. I know he's injury prone, but he's still Joel Embiid. He's an incredible player, and with the addition of LeBron James, come on, right? Uh,
Entering his
Tyrese
prime.
Maxey, all these
Uh,
guys, you have an incredible roster right there, and adding LeBron, like, what more can you ask for, right?
so
On the
here's the
other hand,
thing.
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
No, you go for it. Go for it. It's all
Okay,
right.
so just to finish my point, I'll be quick, don't worry. Right, going back to the Cavs, they made the semifinals this past year. I think the addition with LeBron, not only will that be a huge moneymaker, not only will that be a love story with the Cleveland fans, coming back for another championship run, wow, right? And I think you could say the same thing with the Heat. I don't think it'd be as special because he left the Cavs to go to the Heat, but I think it would still be cool, especially with the pairing with Giannis and Bam Adebayo. You having LeBron there to move the ball to those great big men. That would be amazing to see. But take it away. What's your take on this?
Okay, let's start with the Sixers, right? So let's say LeBron hypothetically joins the Sixers, right? So you got, let's say if Joel Embiid could stay healthy, you have a potential MVP caliber center. You have Tyrese Maxey, probably the fastest player in the league, entering his prime. You got a ball dominant scorer in Jaylen Brown, who just had an MVP-like season in the absence of Jason Tatum. And now you add LeBron James, right? So objectively speaking, out of these three teams, I think that's the strongest core that you can make for him. The only problem is this: how often is LeBron going to be holding that ball? I mean, we're talking about a player that was the primary ball handler on every team he's played for all 23 years or whatever he's been in the league for. Now you're going to have a player who's going to be signing a veterans minimum, or I think maximum $6 million for a 1 year contract with that team. And he's going to have to stand in the corner, whether he likes it or not, because Tyrese Maxey's going to be bringing up that ball, or Jaylen Brown's going to be bringing up that ball, or the ball's going to be dished out in the post to Joel Embiid, right? You got VJ Elchcombe, a great rookie that's coming in, and he's going to want to get his touches, right? So that's one problem I see with LeBron there, is that does he want to win as a side piece, or does he want to win as the primary ball handler? If he wants to
I
be
mean,
the
I'll beg to
man,
differ. I'll challenge you on that. I'll say, I think LeBron has proven in recent years to be a fairly decent point guard, right? 6'8", large frame, but he can
I
handle
would
the
say
ball well. He
more
can
than
move the
fairly
ball
decent.
well, and he doesn't need to be the scorer to be successful.
But I'm saying, what does he want, right? Because like This is the problem right now, is LeBron's been silent. No one knows what he wants. Does he want to be the man? Because when he went back to Cleveland to bring them to the promised land in that historic 3-1 comeback against the Golden State Warriors in 2016, he was the man. Even though Kyrie hit that clutch shot to save his legacy, he was ultimately the man. When he went to the Miami Heat and won those 2 championships with them, with the Heatles, with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, although they were the big three, he was the number one option, right? Now he's going to a team where he's number 4, right? And with VJ, I mean, I mean, VJ was a rookie last year, but he's gonna get a lot of touches too. He may even be number 5, right? So you have a player that is taking a backseat, whether he likes it or not, because he's 42 years old. He's old. He's a great player, but he's old and he's not in his prime anymore, right? And he's also, by the way, going to a city that he's never played for. He has no ties to Philadelphia.
Let
He's
me ask
never
you a
built a
question.
relationship with that
Let me
market.
ask you a
Sure.
question. Do you think that a player of LeBron's caliber will put his, you know, I don't think he's so egotistical, but do you think he'll put his ego aside to help whatever team he goes to the best of his ability and based on what they need? Or do you think that he's going to want to go somewhere to be the man, like you said?
So this is the thing, right? Is that I think the question I'm gonna reform. I'm gonna ask you a question back in response to your question, and it's the question we need to answer is how much does LeBron James care about his legacy, right? Because if he wins with the Sixers as a 4th option, for example, right, people are gonna call him a ring chaser, whether he likes it or not. They're gonna say that the ring doesn't count and that it doesn't change the GOAT debate with MJ because he wasn't the man, he wasn't the one that brought them to the promised land, right? So, meaning it's going to come with a fair share of criticism. So, if the goal is merely to win, I think objectively speaking, we got to say Philadelphia is the best option. But the question is, how much does LeBron James care about what the haters have to say?
Great question. I'll take the complete opposite stance that you currently have, in the sense that I think with him being selfless in this decision, going somewhere where he may not be the man, but he'll say, I want to help this team because I believe that it can succeed. And I think wherever he goes, he will help. He'll have some sort of a contribution to whatever team he goes to. I think that's inevitable. With that said, I think with his selflessness and showing that he cares more about the team winning as opposed to his own accolades, I think that will not solidify the GOAT debate, but you know, it would definitely be an asset for him.
If LeBron wins a championship with the Philadelphia 76ers, are you saying that he's the GOAT over MJ?
Hmm.
It's a yes
Um,
or no question. You got to give me an answer.
we prepared a hot take, and one of these hot takes was, would LeBron be the GOAT over Jordan? And I would definitely highly consider it. But from my perspective, and we'll
I
get to
will.
that, I, I will get to that. But I would say off the bat, yes,
Okay.
yes. If he
I
wins another
disagree.
champion, if he wins another championship, yes.
You see, so this is the thing where I disagree, is that you're saying if he wants another championship, period. Now, if let's take it to Miami Heat, for example, right? If he goes to the Miami Heat, right? So he teams up with Giannis and Bam Adebayo, right? So you got 2 great bigs on his team, right? So you already have a great core right there. I think you instantly have an Eastern Conference contender. Do you have a legitimate title contender? I'm not sure, but you still have a great contender. But you also have a contender where LeBron James could play a big role in that team. LeBron could certainly be a ball handler at the guard position there to feed it to Giannis, to feed it to Bam Adebayo, right? And if he wins with the Heat, for example, right, he's not only winning a championship, but he's winning as a core piece. Now, I think that really gives him a stronger case when it comes to the GOAT debate versus MJ, because that's 5 rings where he played, right, a core piece in every single one of them, right? Because MJ won 6, 2
For sure,
three-peats, but
for sure.
but MJ was the man in every single series and every single game he's played in his career. MJ never took a backseat. LeBron recently took a bit of a backseat during his tenure with the Lakers, but that was uncalled. Like that was something that he didn't want to do. It's one of the reasons why he wants to leave. That's why I'm doubting that he would really want to play for a team like Philly. But let's take it to the Cavs for a second, right? So you got right, and this is something I'm curious about is do you really think the James Harden, LeBron James, Donovan Mitchell combo could work? I mean, I don't know. I don't really see it. I don't really know where the chemistry is there. I don't even think they could win with him. So I think Cleveland is the best when it comes to in terms of like in terms of being familiar with the city, familiar with the organization, familiar with the fan base, right? He already has a lot of love there. It'd be an amazing story to have him retire there, right? And I think even if he ends up with another team, he should do a 10-day contract with Cleveland and retire there because that's really where his home is. That's where he's born and raised. That where he has the most his most valued championship at, right? But do you really think that that combination of players could work?
With the Cavs, not at all. Not at all, because I think all three of those players need the ball to succeed. And when you put LeBron on a team like that, he's going to want the ball, right? Like you said, with Philly, they have all the pieces. LeBron would be an excellent cherry on top, but I think they have what they need, especially with the acquisition of Jaylen Brown. They pretty much have what they need to go on a decent playoff run, maybe even make the championship
Do you think LeBron would make Philly
finals.
worse?
I'm sorry.
You think LeBron would make Philly worse? Do you think it'd be
No,
too much?
no, I'm saying it would be a nice addition. I don't think his role would be so significant, right? However, on the Cavs, you have an excellent all-star point guard in Donovan Mitchell. However, you also have the piece with James Harden. Now, I think we stressed this on a previous episode, but I don't think Harden is the type of player who can be the guy to win a championship. I think we've made that clear,
Well,
right?
LeBron would have to take a big role in the Cavs if they wanna win.
Precisely. And I just don't think he would be capable of doing that. I think he would be decent, but he's turning 42 if not already, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So there's
Yeah.
not much a guy like that can do despite being one of the best players of all time. I'm sorry. So I think we can come to an agreement. Philly would probably be the best case scenario for him to win a championship, whether or not he has a large contribution in winning. I think the Cavs would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be the best place from a story, from a sentimental value point of view. However, I do think, and I think after this conversation, you've shifted my opinion a little bit that the Heat would not only be the best place to win a championship, but it would also be the best place for him to solidify his legacy.
But and what about Golden State, right? Because like, they're not fully out of
Right.
the conversation. I mean, do we wanna see the old men go for one together? And I think I mean, I also think it'd be a great story. I mean, the team that, stopped him f like, the team that was in his way for years when he was on the Cavs to join forces
So
with them.
So to answer that quickly before we go on to the next segment, I do think that if he does go to Golden State, it may give him a good chance of winning a championship, but it will hurt his legacy
Why?
because he'll pull a Kevin Durant. If you can't beat him, join them.
You wait, you're really gonna equivalent Kevin Durant joining a prime Golden State
I'm not.
Warriors
I'm not.
squad?
I'm not. I'm not. They're completely different scenarios. I'm just saying you can make the comparison in some way,
Yeah, I
right?
guess I guess I guess
You
I
can
guess we just
say,
you're
I've lost to this guy in the finals. I've lost to this franchise in the finals twice or three times. Yeah, sorry, three times. Uh, If I can't beat them, might as well join them. Let's go for one more round with these guys, bring home another championship, and boom, I'm done.
it would be a great story, though.
It would be cool. I hate it when players make decisions that can hurt their legacy, and I that's what I think that this move would make. This move would essentially do.
And Miami has nice weather. I mean, like, it's
Well,
Miami,
who doesn't like
right?
Miami? Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're
Good
also
kosher
talking about
restaurants too.
yeah, good kosher food. I mean, LeBron, I don't know, apparently is very close to Rabbi Pinto, the famous Rabbi Pinto,
Yes,
appar
yes, he
and
is.
apparently when he was debating when he was on Cleveland whether to go to Miami or not, he told him to go to Miami. But right, obviously a Jew is gonna tell you to go to Florida, so I don't think we
When would we not? Who doesn't want to be in Miami?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, we'll move on quickly to do a quick little recap of the NBA Summer League, what we've been seeing, right?
Let's do it.
The first four picks, AG DePonta, Darian Peterson, Cam Boozer, right? And Caleb Wilson, fourth pick for the Chicago Bulls, all putting out a show. I want to start with a quick little review of AG DePonta, right? Game one versus the Jazz, right? I love his game personally. He scores 27 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and 1 block. Peterson in that game finishes with 24 points, shooting, however, 2 from 7 from 3, and finishing with 9 fouls. Right in the summer league, you could get up to 10 fouls in order to stay in the game.
I never
Um,
understood that rule. It makes no sense. It makes no
listen,
sense to me, but
listen, the kids, listen, you gotta get the kids a chance to play. They gotta
I
showcase their
guess.
skills. They're not polished talent yet, right? I say let him play. I say hack all you want. But you know what? I love seeing AD DeBonza like this, right? He's just honestly, he's coming out there strong. He's coming out there NBA ready, right? They got the win over the Jazz. And I think Darren Peterson, right, has gotten a lot of criticism for, right, his last season with Kansas. He sat out a lot of games. He had chronic illness. People thought that maybe he wouldn't have he just didn't have the health to be able to have a long-term NBA career. He shut down a lot of the haters, it seems like. Although shooting pretty inefficiently the first game, he ended up averaging in his 2 summer league games 26.5 points on 52.8% shooting, 43.8% from 3, averaging 7 assists and 3.5 rebounds. That's really solid, right? I think he's proving everybody why he's a number 2 pick. I don't know if you think I'm jumping a little bit ahead, Shalom, but I'm really excited about this kid.
Well, I mean, Peterson may have gotten to a rough start in his first game, um, shooting only what was it?
2 for
Yeah,
7
2
from
for
3.
7 from the 3 and 6 for 18 in shooting overall. I mean, the fact that he brought his percentages up so much to incredible percentages in game 2, I mean, you have the first time jitters, but I mean, once you break the ice, just let the kid rise. Let him succeed, and I'm excited to see what he'll do in the NBA.
But do you think the doubters have any sort of truth? I mean, like, listen, the guy missed 11 college games, which is a lot. He had quad pain. He had random illnesses coming here and there. He subbed himself off of games. I mean, this is not typical behavior you see from a number 2 pick. The reason why most people thought he would be the undisputed number 1 pick. The Wizards thought that it would be a risky pick because of what they were hearing about him. What do you think? Do you think that this was all blown out of proportion and that now he's kind of shutting everybody up and he's kind of showing everybody that, people like to talk before they see the real product? Or do you think that maybe there is some validity to these claims?
I mean, in general, I think there's always some sort of validity to credible claims. With that said, though, I do think when you do end up going pro, right, taking that jump from college or the minors or the G League or whatever it is, going pro, you also develop a bit more of thick skin. You understand that you're in the largest market in the world. You need to develop and, work through those hard times to succeed in the greatest market in basketball. Right. So I think with that said, I think with his time playing pro, especially over the summer, I think he'll develop that mentality, that mindset that he'll need to hopefully succeed because I want to see this kid thrive.
Well, me too. I don't want to see another Zion Williamson, John Moran case. I mean, that's what I'm afraid of, right? Is that I'm tired of seeing these first or second, right, these first or second picks end up being I wouldn't really call John Moran or Zion Williamson busts per se because they're still fairly good basketball players, right? But they definitely haven't been living up to the potential that we placed on them, right? So, or they haven't been living up to the expectations we placed on them, right? They haven't been living up to their potential. So, and I don't want to see the same thing with Darren Peterson. I think that he doesn't seem as afraid as for the moment, and the reason why I wanted to emphasize his play a bit, and although he shot like inefficiently, I think people thought that he was afraid of the moment, but he kind of showed like I'm going to take a lot of shots, and even if I miss them, I'm going to keep on shooting. I kind of love that attitude for him. And I think that what we've seen, I'm going to move on to Well, first I'm going to talk about Cam Boozer. I'll make a quick little comment. Cam Boozer, the third pick, right, for the Memphis Grizzlies, right? In his first summer league game versus Caleb Wilson of the Bulls, got 23 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists in 27 minutes, in a 97-96 win over the Bulls. I mean, if you watched him play, he's getting in the paint. He's strong. I think he's NBA ready. I think this is a very solid pick for the Grizzlies. I love it for them. I don't have really much to say. I think he just looks he looks like he's gonna take time to develop and he'll get into his zone, but I like the progression from him thus far. Moving on to Caleb Wilson, and this is really what I get at. I mean, this is unbelievable. He's been playing. I mean, first of all, in a recent interview, he said he wants to be the best bull of all time. He said he wants to be better than Michael Jordan. I mean, the kid's definitely ambitious. I'll say
I
that.
saw that. Yeah, definitely big shoes to fill, but listen, you don't become the best by thinking you're not, right?
Well, listen, I agree with you, but one thing about MJ is that when he's wearing that Bulls uniform and he's jumping out of the gym and he's dunking on people and he's doing things that maybe we haven't seen in a Bulls uniform since Derrick Rose. So this is exciting. I think this Bulls franchise has been down the drain for a while. But he's giving them a sign of hope, right? 35 points and 3 blocks, shooting 12 for 21 and 7 from 11 from three in his first win versus the Grizzlies. In his first game versus the Grizzlies, they lost 97-96, right? Um, and then he had a great game in his second game as well. I mean, high scoring, efficient scoring, dunking on people, shooting threes. The guy's doing everything out there, and he's young. Apparently, he was crying after his first game because he was so excited to play. He hadn't played in 5 months to his injury in college. He was playing for North Carolina. I like the kid. I think he has a great future. I think if he keeps his confidence up and he keeps on grinding and focusing his mind on the right things, this is great for the Bulls, and this is just great for
Well,
the
I
league.
mean, he has the MJ trajectory, and he definitely has his mentality as well. So, I hope to see a lot of success for him in the future.
Me too. Do you wanna move on to the World Cup? Alright, so we can cut this part out.
Yeah,
Alright,
yeah. Let's discuss the World Cup, just a
go
little
for it.
bit. We'll talk a little bit about Team Canada. This is their first time entering a World Cup tournament. I think just for Canadian sports in general, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. They didn't make it so far. I mean, they definitely exceeded expectations, making it to the top 16, which is, in one of the biggest sporting events, in the biggest sporting event in the world. When you have Canada up there with the greats, it's always that feeling of pride and support that we would give for our country for sure.
Do you consider Canada a soccer country now, or is that a bit of a leap, right?
Not
Because
yet. I
Canada
think that's a bit of a
not
leap.
yet.
Not yet, but they definitely have the support. They definitely have the tools to definitely become one in the next 4 to 8 years. Hopefully, they make a few other World Cup runs, in the next competitions. Um, but we'll see where it goes. But no, I think that's a bit of a leap. Um,
Like,
but I guess I'll come down to this. Who do you think's gonna win? Who do you think's gonna win? We saw Spain beat France yesterday in a nail biter, and we saw Argentina come back from an incredible deficit, a 1-0 deficit, but with 5 minutes left in today's game, Argentina scores 2 goals to take the lead and the
unbelievable.
victory against England. What are your thoughts?
Unbelievable. I mean, like, to do that in a soccer game is just unheard of, right? And I think that
Unbelievable.
right. Listen, Argentina's a historic franchise, right? They're a team that needs to win. They're a team that places right? They place such high expectations on their player. They have arguably the best player in the world on their team in Messi. I don't know what you think. I think Messi's the best soccer player ever. I won't put
I
Ronaldo.
I couldn't agree more. I thought that this GOAT debate between Messi and Ronaldo was so far-fetched. Messi has all the accolades. He has all the championships. He won a World Cup last World Cup 4 years ago. If he wins again, I think this seals the deal. We will always have our Ronaldo fans. We will always have our Zidane and Pele and all these incredible figures in the soccer world. I just think you win back-to-back World Cups with all the accolades and accomplishments that you have throughout your career. There's no doubt in my mind. And I don't even think anyone will disagree with me. Anyone who knows soccer will agree that Messi will go down as the best soccer player of all time if he wins this. I believe that he's already the best, but I think he would be undisputed GOAT in soccer.
Ronaldo, listen, Ronaldo's the best scorer of all time. Pure offensive player, right? Pure striker. Like if you're talking about a pure striker, right? Like that's what Ronaldo is. But Messi in terms of being able to carry a team and being able to bring the other players around
Absolutely.
him and making a great team, I don't think it's a debate at all. And you're also just talking about a guy that did it at such a small right, at such a small size. Just it's
For sure.
historic and it's
For
unprecedented.
sure.
It's like a
Both
you
plays
quote
today
possible the
alone, he was the playmaker on both those plays.
yeah.
Incredible. 5 minutes, that's all you
And
need
he's
from
older.
Messi.
He's older. He's doing this at an older age as well, right? So,
It's
right,
unbelievable what he's doing. Definitely. So I can't wait to see what will happen. We have an incredible matchup on Sunday. It's actually in New Jersey. It's only 2 hours away. I'm like, "Should I go?" I don't know. I don't know. But it's definitely one for the record books, one for the ages. Argentina against Spain. I can't wait to watch that.
who do
Moving
you got
on.
winning?
Sorry,
Who do you got winning?
Argentina. Argentina. I think so. I'll
I'm
I'll
I'm
say this.
I'm gonna go for Spain then, because I
Really?
gotta go to the other side. Yeah,
Wow.
we're gonna have to see. Yeah,
Okay. I
I'll
will
go for
say
Spain.
this though. I will say this. They are undefeated in the tournament. I think both teams are, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But Argentina is undefeated in this tournament. And not only have they won while leading the entire game, they've also come back twice now from a deficit late in the game. So not only do they know how to maintain a lead, but they also know how to regain a lead when it matters most. So I think those are crucial skills and experience that you need alongside with the championship that they won 4 years ago. I think they have all the tools to run it up again, go back to back as world champions once again. We'll see what happens.
The only thing I will say though is that listen, Spain beat a very tough Belgian team that beat the US 4-1, right?
True.
So I
Very
the
true.
Spain, right? Spain has played some tough
Spain is
competition.
not to be reckoned with. They're
No,
definitely not an underdog. I think this is a
pretty even
matchup
matchup.
that suits very well for the both of them.
It'll be a good game. You gotta have to
For
tune in.
sure. For sure. So before we get to the NHL, Sam and I want to introduce a new segment called Hot Takes. So it's more of a game, and the rules are simple. We have to make a claim to the other person, and if the other person argues or disagrees, could agree as well, that's fine. But
We
if
tend to
we go,
disagree a lot, so
it's true, we tend to disagree a lot, but that's what makes it interesting, right? But if we go completely off and go on a strong rant, start screaming at one another, that person loses. So we have to try and keep our cool to the best of our ability, despite whatever statements we may make. So I'll give you the floor, Sam. I'll let you go first.
okay. I'm gonna start off going back to the NBA, right? I'm sorry, I'm such a basketball junkie, but I think Shaquille O'Neal is the greatest center of all time.
What are we talking accolades? Are we talking just pure talent, dominance? Can you be a bit more specific?
I think we're talking about the actual center position, right? We're talking about the most dominant to ever play the center position. I mean, Shaq was a force to be reckoned with, but who could you put above him, right? I mean, like he had. It's not only that he has four championships, right? If you're just going by championships, then obviously there's Kareem and obviously there's Bill Russell, but I don't know if Bill Russell would be able to guard Shaquille O'Neal if he played in his era, right? Shaquille O'Neal was scary. He broke rims, right?
Oh, yeah,
He they made
100%.
rules for Shaq. They had a rule called hack a Shaq. They would literally hack Shaq to force him to shoot free throws because they just could not take him just going in the paint, right? And they also knew he couldn't shoot free throws. But he was getting right MVP level 30 odd points a game, right? He could have been a multiple time MVP. I really think that was possible. I don't know. I don't see a more dominant center than Shaquille O'Neal. You're
I
gonna
mean,
have to give me a rebuttal for that.
when you talk about it like that, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with
Okay.
you. The players that come to mind from a pure raw center position, Hakeem Olajuwon, incredible talent in the paint. He would be like the runner up. But I would agree with you. He was the first person that comes to mind. Then you obviously have Bill Russell and Kareem. They have all the trophies, anything you can possibly ask for in an NBA career. but when you're talking from a raw center position, yeah, I'll give you that one.
Well,
I'll
let's
give you
get to
that.
another question, right? Let's get a broader NBA question, right? Who's the GOAT? Who's the best player to ever touch a basketball? And I'm gonna go to, right, I don't know if people don't see above me, I have a Michael Jordan uh picture in my room because that's how much I idolize him, right? MJ's the GOAT. It's undisputed, right? Having the LeBron talk before was even making me sick. I feel nauseous now, right? It's not even a debate for me. We're gonna have to see
You
what's
know
on.
what? You know what? I think we've had this talk so many times over the span of years. When
It's
we
been
were
a
in grade school, I think we still spoke about this. You know, when LeBron won in Miami, I think we talked about this. I'm gonna side with LeBron here. Greatest scorer of all time, has an incredibly amount of incredible amount of career assists and rebounds. Doesn't he have 40, 20, and 20? And we're talking in the thousands for
I
points,
don't
assists, and rebounds.
look, if we're going from
He has
pure
4
stuff,
championships with 3 different franchises
why is that a flex? Why is that a flex? Why is that
because
a
he
good
could win anywhere.
no, it meant he had to join 3 super teams to win championships. Michael
No,
Jordan won
no.
6. He didn't build a super team with any of them. He didn't even have a super team for the first few, and he engineered organically, right, a team that I don't even know if I would consider a super team. Well, maybe you can consider it with Rodman and Pippen, right? But that wasn't him. He wasn't chasing rings. He wasn't flying to the Miami Heat, then going to Cleveland again, then going to LA, then getting this player and that player and that player. We got a player, right, that did it himself for 7 years. He fought through the trenches for the Detroit Pistons. He finally broke through, and Larry Bird and all those guys. He broke through. He had to play through a tough
You're telling me that Jordan had worse of a team than LeBron did in all of LeBron's championships?
in 1991. In 1991, they had to play the LA Lakers with Magic Johnson and with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and
And
James
all the other
Worthy.
ones?
And then and when they played the Suns, they played the Charles Barkley Suns. I mean, that's a pretty tough competition, right? And did he have a super team versus the Lakers? No, he didn't have Dennis Rodman yet. It was him and Pippen. That's a two-man duo. And Horace Grant,
I
I don't
think you
consider
could
him.
say that that's the best duo of all time.
I mean, I would put maybe Shaq and Kobe above them, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I would put them as the best
Maybe.
duo of all time. That's another
With that
discussion.
said, all I'm saying is that you have who did LeBron have on LA when they won in the bubble?
Well, they had
AD
Anthony Davis,
and
Rajon
I'd
Rondo,
take Pippen over Anthony Davis any day of the week.
Anthony Davis in 2020. We're not talking about the injury-prone Anthony Davis that now, like, breaks his foot just by walking, right? We're talking about
I hear
the
you, but I'd still take Pippen over Anthony Davis in 2020.
Yeah, but Scottie Pippen in 1991 was young. He wasn't his fully developed player yet. Michael Jordan was carrying that team. Pippen was more of a defensive player. They're just to guard Magic, right? And but this is what I don't really understand when it comes to this debate is that people are so fixated on stats, right? But there are other players who, right, have averaged more points, who have great stats in in other regards, right? Clearly, when we're talking about the best player, right, we're not talking about who had the better overall career success, right? Obviously, LeBron James has had greater overall career
Why
success.
isn't it that though? I think
Uh,
that's the definition of the best player of all time.
because I think the definition of the GOAT is the player who's had the best prime, and I think no one reached the heights in terms of influence and greatness than Michael Jordan has reached. I think LeBron, right, he's had a longer career, and a longer career will inevitably equal more points, more rebounds, more assists. I think his longevity is outstanding. I think it's remarkable, and it's something that should be taken into account in the GOAT debate. But in terms of who reached the greatest heights, who revolutionized the game, who was the best winner of all time, 6-0 in the finals, I gotta go MJ. I don't think it's a debate.
I hear the argument. The only thing I'll say is that if you're only basing a player off on their prime, then we could talk about Kobe, we could talk about Shaq, their dominance in the game. I mean, then you bring in so many other players. I'm not so keen on accepting that argument because you have to look at a whole career. You know, I understand where you're coming from a skill standpoint, from an influential standpoint. Sure, you know, Michael Jordan was. I don't think he could walk anywhere on the streets in the 80s and 90s and not be recognized because he was so influential for the game, and we're talking internationally. So I agree with you in that regard, and how he was so amazing for basketball in the NBA. However, when you look at a player and you define who the greatest of all time is, again, we could look back at Messi and Ronaldo. Ronaldo is, I would say, undoubtedly the best scorer of all time. He's not the best player of all time, and here's why. Because Messi is an overall career, right? His career, his accolades, everything that comes into it is a much better player. So I would have to say,
Okay.
I think we can make the same argument for LeBron.
If Ray Allen wouldn't have hit that shot versus the Spurs, he's not winning one of those championships. LeBron blew it versus the Dallas
And if
Mavericks.
Steve Kerr
Wait, no,
didn't
no,
hit
this is what I
that
want to say.
shot, if
If you're
Steve
gonna
Kerr
tell me,
didn't hit
you're gonna
that
tell
shot,
me, you're gonna tell me, you're gonna tell me, you're gonna tell me that if you have MJ and LeBron on your team and you need one shot to win the game, you're giving it to LeBron? No way.
if you're
No way.
asking who the better shooter is, I'll say
No, this isn't about
without
shooters. It's
any
about who
doubt.
has the guts to win the team, to win the game for his team. Who has the cojones to win the game for his team? Okay, we need right when we're talking about the best player of all time. We're talking about the player who's the clutchest of all time. We're talking about the player that in the finals, I'm confident that he's winning. I want the ball in his hands because there's no one other than him. Right? There's no one I would rather take that last shot than Michael Jordan. Why? Because LeBron has passed it over and over again. That was the biggest flaw in the beginning of his career. He was afraid to take the last shot, right? That's why he needed Kyrie to do it in 2016. It's why he needed Ray Allen to bail him out versus the Heat. And it's also why they blew it versus the Mavericks. MJ never blew a series before. MJ always pulled through. He never choked. LeBron was a choker in 2011. That was a blood ring by the Mavericks. They stole
I'll
that.
need to correct you, and we'll move on to the next hot take, because I think this was a really good one, by the way. I think this was awesome, but I'll have to correct you. I think MJ wasn't a choker once he made the finals, but it took him almost a decade to get there.
Listen, listen.
Not to say that Detroit wasn't dirty and
The bad boy Pistons.
extremely difficult
He
to
would, he
get
would, he
by,
would, he would leave every game with
but
broken bones and bruises. I mean, the guy, and he was
right.
a kid. He was a kid trying to do that. A kid needing to play Larry Bird and the prime Detroit Pistons. I mean, LeBron James. It's true he made the finals at a young age in 2007. But look at the Eastern Conference this guy was playing in. I mean, the definition of LeBron's career for a long period of time has been flying through a horrible Eastern Conference and then getting stuck in the West for a top team and then losing in the finals, right? It happened with Golden State over and over again. It happened with the Spurs, right? And it also and surprisingly, it happened with the Mavericks, right? But that's the thing. The second LeBron reached legitimate competition on many occasions in his career, it came out with an L. Michael Jordan, you can't say the same. He had tough competition in the Eastern Conference, and once he broke through, no one was able to touch him. Not the New York Knicks, not the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller, or right, like I said, the Knicks with Patrick Ewing, the later Detroit Pistons. He finally got through to them. Right, there's a ton of competition, and the second he reached his peak, they all fell behind him. And then when he went to the West, it was the same thing there. The Jazz never got him. No team ever got him. Right, but LeBron James, the Golden State always had his number. Besides for that 1 year with the historic 3-1 comeback, which I think saved his legacy, and which is the only reason why this debate is still happening today.
It's an interesting thing. The last thing I will say is that out of the 4 years he's faced Golden State while on the Cavs, the 1 year he beat them was when they beat MJ and the Chicago Bulls record for most wins in a season. So I think that also has a factor, maybe, maybe not, where it's like he may have well blown it against Dallas. He may have blown it other times.
He
Maybe,
did, not he may have.
maybe,
They did.
maybe. However, when you beat the best team of all time, you need to include that in the argument.
Listen, it saved his legacy. I agree with you on that,
For
but I
sure,
don't.
for sure.
And
It's
he won
one
in the
reason
bubble.
why
He won
we
in the
can still
bubble.
have this debate with some sort of soundness to it.
Listen, there's some sort of soundness, but he won in the bubble. I don't even know if I consider that a legitimate ring, right? And then you got right, and that's the problem is that this thing with LeBron is that there's always an asterisk. Look, we got to figure out what is gonna the real definition of the GOAT, right? Is it about overall career success, in which I would attribute to LeBron, or is it about reaching the greatest heights as a basketball player, which I would attribute to MJ? Depending on your definition, it'll gear you towards a different answer. So I think that what we need to figure out and what people and when having discussion really need to figure out is how do we really define the goat? And right for us, our definitions differ a little bit, which is why we disagree on this.
Fair,
But I think that's up
fair.
for the
I,
viewers
I
to
like that
decide.
approach a lot. I like that
Comment
approach.
down below who you think the goat is. Right? If you think MJ's the goat, right? Right. I mean, I hope you do. Comment it down below. If you think LeBron is, I guess you could comment it down below. I'm not really gonna like it, but like and subscribe. That's what I'll say. Like and subscribe.
Okay. Next hot take. As Habs fans, and this may differ from a generational standpoint, Carey Price is a better goalie overall as a franchise goalie for the Canadiens than Patrick Roy.
No way.
And I have my reasoning for this, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this because Patrick Roy was a Canadian icon. He won the Stanley Cup for the Habs as a rookie in '86. He won it with the
That's it.
Habs
That's
in
the reason it's
'93.
over. It's over. That's why he's better. That's
Wait a
it.
second.
If
Wait
you
a
no no
second.
no. If
No,
you
no, no.
win and the
Wait a
other player
second.
does not win, it's over. That's it. It's about winning. That's what sports
Wait
is.
a
Sports is
second.
about
Wait a second.
winning.
I'm talking about from pure skill, right? And I'll use this this debate tactic that you used just before with Michael is that who do I want in net to stop the puck? Who do I want with the last seconds to shoot the ball? Who would I want in net to stop the puck? Is it Patrick Roy or Carey Price? And I'll compare and contrast the two.
I get
Yeah.
look, I get what you're saying, right? If we're talking about character, if we're talking about right, we all know that in 2014, I mean, there was nobody that could get a puck past Price. I mean, he was a brick wall, and it was something that arguably we have never seen before, right? I agree with you. Right? And that as an individual goalie, if who would I rather have if I were to draft my own team and pick my own team? I'd probably be picking and in their prime, I'd probably be picking Price over Raw, right? But if we're talking about the greatest Canadian Montreal Canadiens goalie, right? The best goalie specific to the franchise, you gotta attribute it to the player who won you a Stanley Cup. And it's simple as that. Because by the end of the day, and right, and this is what comes back down to the GOAT debate for me, is that the goal in sports is to win, right? And it's true that maybe Patrick Waugh had a better team around him. Maybe he had worse competition. I don't know exactly what the case was. But by the end of the day, Carey Price made a Stanley Cup with them. They didn't get it that year. They didn't make it that year, right? They didn't finish the job that year. And by the end of the day, no one remembers second place. People only remember first place. People remember that in 1986, Patrick Waugh won with the Montreal Canadiens. He solidified as a Stanley Cup champion, and Carey Price isn't. Carey Price's legacy lies as an amazing goalie, a great goalie, potentially the most skilled individually that we have ever seen of all time. Maybe like, I don't know about the most skilled all time, but he could enter the conversation. And also, I think another thing we got to take into account is Price's career was cut short, right? He retired early. We didn't see enough of him, right? And we're talking about Patrick Roy. If you want to talk about like comparing careers, he won numerous other Stanley Cups with Colorado. He played for years down the line, right? So you're talking about a goalie with greater longevity. We're talking about a goalie that won 3 times in his career. So I don't think it's that black and white. I gotta put Raw as the greatest Habs goalie of all time.
So
Not of all time, the
I'll
greatest Habs
rebuttal
goalie
a
of
little
all
bit.
time.
I'll rebuttal a little bit, and I'll tell you why. In 1986, Patrick Roy had a support system of probably the best defensive pairing in franchise history, maybe even NHL history. You had Larry Robinson, the best Canadiens defenseman of all time, and one of the best defensemen of all time, alone. And in 93, you had Vincent Damphousse. You had all these guys. These were 100-point players. Carey Price has played with one player in his career that achieved the milestone of 80 points in a season once. That was Alex Kovalev in his rookie year. So you want to talk about for the franchise? Maybe. I'll have to agree with you on that because
That's the
a lot
nuance.
Roy has done more for the franchise. However, I think it's absolutely out of the question to even compare them from a skill standpoint. Price won a Hart Trophy, which is almost unheard of for a goalie winning the MVP. We saw it with Hellebuck 2 years ago. However, this doesn't happen often,
It's a
right?
rare
So
occurrence.
any goalie who wins a Hart Trophy, I think they lock a Hall of Fame position, which Price was inducted this summer. And I think from the raw talent, bringing a team that had zero offense for a good 15 years to two semifinals and a cup final. I mean, yeah,
I mean, I
from
don't know if you
sheer
saw
raw
Garrett.
talent, I gotta go with Price.
I mean, I don't know if you saw the that Dale Weiss on that podcast a while ago, but he
I
said that
did. I
right
did.
they would lose a game 1-0, right? And then he would come in the locker room and he would blame himself and he would say, "I'm sorry, I let in a goal," right? That was his mentality. Listen, Price was something
I
different.
love that podcast just from Dale Weiss's expression, right? He says, "We lost 1-0 and it was my fault." And Dale Weiss is looking at the guys and he says, you had 42 shots. You saved 42 shots. You let in one goal. We had 15 shots on net, didn't score anything. Why are you upset at yourself? It's
Listen,
clearly
I
not
think
your fault."
I think one thing we could agree on is that Price had no hope for a long time. The dump and chase Habs, right? They would get right every game. It would be like Habs win 2-1. Price with 40 saves, and we would just sneak the win, and we wouldn't even deserve to win. I mean, like, listen, like I think listen, Price definitely did something that we've never seen before, and that's elevate a team to right? To elevate a team as a legitimate contender where offensively they should have nowhere even been in that stratosphere, right? They shouldn't have even been in that conversation of contending in terms of the offense they had. But just because of our goalie and our defense, right? We took ourselves all the way to right to the Eastern Conference Finals, against the New York Rangers one year, right? We went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals versus Tampa Bay. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to win. But all jokes aside, what I said before about Patrick Roy, the fact that Price helped us get to those points with the team he had around him, it's remarkable. I mean, it's
It's
something that
yeah,
we can't forget.
it's
Yeah,
unbelievable. It's he will probably go down as the one player in NHL history that will go down as the what if career.
one of the biggest
Because
one.
yeah, what if he was on a different team? What if his career didn't fall short, or what if it wasn't cut to the amount of time that he was while he was that it was while he was injured?
That's why
What
I
would
think
have
it's hard
happened
to
if he
compare
had
him.
one goal scorer? What if he was on this current Montreal Canadiens team? What would happen,
They would
right?
win the Stanley Cup. That's what would have
I
happened. They would
think
have
I
won the
think
Stanley Cup.
I've seen a lot of simulations. If this current team had Carey Price in his prime, and oh boy, it's scary. Okay, for the last hot take, Leo Carlsson's new contract isn't such a big deal. It's not so surprising.
$18 million a year for 5 years isn't a big deal. Nah, he's trolling me, guys. Comment down below if you think Sheldon's just trolling, because, unlike it was described, of course. But look, this is ridiculous, right? So look, I think the winners of all of this are Philly, right? Because now, I mean, I think this guy is taking up at least 30 something percent of, at least, I don't know the number, but it has to be at least 30 something percent of Anaheim's salary cap. $18 million a year, by far the most paid player per year in NHL history.
It's a bit under 20%. I think yeah, he has an $18 million
You're
contract
sure about
AVV
that?
AAV, and
I was thinking
the
more.
salary cap is I think 106 million. But still, this handicaps the Ducks. It hurts
How do you say it's not a
their
big
future
deal?
for his entire contract.
And how are they going to sign their other free agents, right? This is the problem. Is that maybe one of them will go to Montreal. Maybe we'll get a center we need, right? And maybe we'll have to send Philly a thank you note, and I'll be the first one to do it. But I
Listen,
think this is a huge
I
deal
I
because
think
this showed.
I was definitely trolling you there. I think this deal is absolutely absurd. But I think now that the Ducks have matched the Flyers' offer sheet, I think this was a brilliant move by Danny Briere. And here's why. You completely debilitate a team that's coming up in the West as a pretty significant team. They made the second round. They lost to Vegas, but they were a promising team and they have a lot of young talent. They lost McTavish in the offseason, but they still have Beckett Seneke, who's going to need a re-signing. Right now they have Leo Carlsson. They have a lot of players who are going to need contracts, right? I think Cutter as well, who's an incredible player and an incredible role player, young talent. And now that Philly offered this extraordinary offer sheet to Carlson, I was shocked that the Ducks matched it. And I think they would have been a lot better off taking the 4 first-round picks that Philly was offering them and starting new with incredible contracts, incredible value. I want to hear your take. What would have been the Ducks' future if they would have taken those 4 picks instead of completely destroying their salary cap for the next 5 years?
Listen, I kind of disagree a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I think sometimes you got to be a man of principle, right? And I think that I think this was kind of like the Ducks kind of telling Philly, "Screw you," and that, right? I think that the Ducks kind of looked at Philly and they're like, I think this was a move out of principle. I think they're trying to show we really value Leo Carlsson as a player. He's one of our top players. He's part of our future, and we think we could build with him. Is he the best player in the league? No, he's not. He's not worth $18 million. I think we could all agree he's not worth $18 million. This guy's severely overpaid, right? But I think this sets a healthy precedent for the league. If people saw that you could just offer crazy offer sheets, right? Because I mean, if you have the money, like assuming Philly had the money to do this, other teams could do it too, and right, anytime a team has a restricted free agent, you could just poach their players by giving extremely aggressive offers. At least this team is saying, you're trying to steal our player by giving an aggressive offer. We're not going to let it happen. Right. Right. So we could discuss the
I
picks, but
actually
I
really
out
like
of
that perspective. I really like that perspective because the way I thought about it was that this kind of sets a horrible precedent for the league where any team can offer anyone an absurd amount of money and completely shift the contract trend. You know, this player who is in who's barely a veteran, right? He's still very much a sophomore type of player. I think he's entering his 3rd or 4th year in the league. He's
their
getting
future.
paid. I understand he's their future, but he's getting paid $6 million above the best player in the world. $5 million more than Nathan McKinnon. $6 million more than Connor McDavid. $4 million more than Leon Draisaitl. I mean, even more than Kaprizov at the $17 million contract he signed last year.
He's
Crazy.
making double Lane Hudson, double Demidov. I mean, it's crazy. Look, I think we agree he's severely overpaid, but I just think this is out of principle. Anaheim had they had to take this deal just to show the league that you can't do this. You can't just give the crazy numbers and steal players from franchises, right?
For
Like we're
sure.
not and I think that although it's hurting them and although this is gonna be really tough on them financially speaking, I think that it does show that they I think it was just acting out of principle. I think they just wanted to show the rest of the league that you're not going to poach our players, you're not going to intimidate us, and I kind of like it. Listen, I think it sucks. I think it's a bad situation for them, but
From
I
that
like it.
standpoint, yeah, from that standpoint, I hear what you're saying and I hear where you're coming from. I just hope it works to their advantage because they've really hit a wall with the salary cap on this one.
They may have to get rid of a few people. I don't know.
Maybe.
They're
Yeah.
yeah, or they may have to ask
Before
the league to stop the cap rules.
it's yeah, luckily there will be a few salary cap increases over the next couple of years that will definitely help their current situation. Before we go, this is my last question for you, Sam. What do you think about Ovechkin returning for one more season? I guess this would be his last dance with the Washington Capitals.
I just hang up the skates already. Like, listen, I love Ovechkin, right? Look, I love Ovechkin. I love pure goal scorers. Shalom knows it. Everyone that knows me knows it. I love pure goal scorers. I love Ovechkin's game. I would love watching him play. I remember watching him get the most goals of all time and becoming the highest goal scorer of all time. It was a great moment. Um, I think that doing it at 40 or 41 years old, whatever he was at, is just phenomenal. But I don't know. This has to be it after that. And I think the deal's around it's $4.25 million. It's a lot of money for. I don't really understand. I don't really get why the Capitals are doing this either. I mean, it's a lot of money for a player that isn't really going to take you anywhere. Um, I don't know. Listen, I don't really think it's as significant as people think. I'm not going to be paying too much attention. He's already the highest goal scorer of all time. He has nothing left to prove. He's not going to be winning with this franchise. So I guess it's a nice little it'll be a nice little farewell tour for him, but doesn't really excite me too much.
I hear you. I think I think the only reason why he's doing this is just because he loves the game. I agree with you. He has nothing left to prove. He's done everything he could possibly ever imagine. He won a Stanley Cup in 2018. He, out of nowhere, I mean, not out of nowhere, but I don't think anyone was expecting him to even touch Gretzky's record. And I can say he obliterated it. He entered the 900 goal class, and he's the only one to ever do it in any career. So I think that's definitely something to be proud of, and I think that I think this was a class act from the Washington Capitals. You know, our captain for however many years wants to play one more season. Who are we to say no, right? I think, if he wants to have his one
It's a
last
show of
dance.
respect. It's a show of respect. Listen, you're
Right,
showing him
right. If he wants to have his one last dance, four point something million for Ovechkin is a steal, especially with the cap space now, right? And they have a decent team. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they can make the playoffs, right? So we'll see what happens. And I think it would be special for him to make the playoffs again, and to have one last show with his hometown.
yeah, but he's not better than Crosby though.
I agree with you. That I don't think that's a hot take. I think overall Crosby will go down as a better player than Ovechkin in the all-time class. But
If you're gonna disagree, I'm like, we may have to go for 2 hours
yeah,
tonight
no,
because
no, no. I agree with you on that one. But
yeah.
anyways, yeah, that's all for this episode in the Sports and Schmooze podcast, episode 3. Want to hear all your comments on the hot takes, Sam? Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining and listening.
Like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. MJ's the GOAT. I'm gonna end it with that. Leave your comments down below, like and
I'll keep
subscribe.
my mouth shut. I'll keep my mouth shut.
We're out of here. We'll see you next week.